Welcome back to 755 is Real. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer for The Athletic, with my co-host Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. What's going on, Eric?
What's up, Dave?
Well, that was an interesting series in New York. 4 games in 3 days, man. You talk about a whirlwind. We flew in Monday morning and flew out Wednesday night. 4 games, and it was in town for about 70 hours or less. So, but I think we saw the best and worst of the Braves, and I thought it's crazy how one inning can really change the whole complexion of not just a series, but the whole trip, because the trip started out disappointing, obviously, with Texas. And then you get swept in the doubleheader, which they hung around in both those games. And, you lose 5-4 after the 3-run homer by Olsen in game 2. Charlie pitches really poorly early on, then holds it together and gets through 7 or whatever it was, 5.5. I don't 5 1/3. I forgot what it was. I have to go look. But I thought instead of losing a series, which they could have done if they would have dropped yesterday's game, I thought having their biggest inning of the year, a 7-run inning, which they did without a home run.
Right.
I thought that inning showed. I mean, because they just beat the hell out of the Mets in that inning out of Ottavino and out of McGill, who had not lost a game all year and had pitched the first 5 innings of that no-hitter. And then out of Trevor Williams when he came in. So I just thought that inning really left them with a great feeling about the trip, about what was overall not a great trip, but It just changed everything. 3-4 trip, but you split with the team with the best record in the National League.
Yeah, and it's if you lose 3 out of 4 to them, you might start questioning things. But for me, even the games they lost, there were so many cheap hits and good breaks that fell the Mets' way. I didn't watch the series, even if they would have lost yesterday and gone 1-3 in the series. I didn't watch the series and think, this is a better team than the Braves. I just felt like, they were playing a little better, pitching a little better, and they caught the breaks they needed to that made a difference in the doubleheader.
Yeah.
So many cheap hits.
Yeah. If you look at it, the old, I know a lot of people don't really put a lot of stock in the hard hit rates and soft contact, but they should, because it's a good indication, kind of like Babbitt, batting average on balls in play. If there's a big disparity between your actual Babbitt and your real batting average, high or low, it's a good chance it's going to correct itself over the course of the season.
Yeah.
We've seen that almost every time. Well, it's the same way with hard hit rate and soft contact rate. If you got like one of the worst hard hit rates in the league, which the Mets have had a lot of soft contact hits this year, like best in the league or close. Braves have had the highest hard hit rate in the league, but it's not translated to batting average. Well, you got to think over the course of a year, you keep hitting the ball harder than the other team. Even with shifts, you're still going to get a lot more hits than you've been getting.
Yeah.
You want to hit the ball hard. That's the objective, right? So it's not just, you're not just looking through rose-colored glasses if you say that the Braves didn't get that the Mets got some breaks in those first 3 games. They did. The Braves also had a couple of really poorly pitched innings, but for the most part, I'm with you. They were right there with them playing.
Yeah, it's the one thing that you can't get a cheap hit if you strike out,
right?
And that's been what's really hurting the team,
right.
And I think it's a combination of that and those. For me, it's watching all the balls that are winding up at the warning track. I think a lot of those balls get out in the past, and that'll change your whole hard hit rate percentage and everything like that. So there is some leveling out there, but I give the Mets credit for just putting balls in play. You can't get a cheap hit if you don't, and that's where they caught a lot of their breaks, was just not striking out. But overall, I didn't watch the series and think this team's a problem. I know they're good, but so are the Braves, and the Braves are playing down right now, and the Mets are up.
Acuna had that drive to center field.
Oh, my God.
It's gone out at any time in the past. That's a home run. The expected batting average on that thing was like 970 or
it was 100.
Was it 1,000?
Yeah.
1,000, 100%, 1,000.
Yeah.
I knew it was ridiculous, and it was caught right in front of the wall. I mean, and he hit the hell out of that ball, and they had a few others. They had a few others the same way, and so the Mets. The Mets had a few too.
Yeah, they did.
The Braves had an inordinate number of balls hit hard and that were caught, just like they have through much of the course of the season so far. And you got to think with either the balls are going to change a little bit or the humidor after they keep them in there for a while and the temperatures change. We'll see, but they are hitting the ball hard, and that's the most important. If they were up there, because they're striking out too much, like you said, they're leading the majors in strikeouts. But if they were also hitting the ball soft and striking out, that'd be a real problem. But they're not doing that.
Yeah. And, you get away with the strikeouts when those balls to the track are flying out because it's a 2-run homer, a 3-run homer there. You wind up evening out and getting your runs. But if the ball's not going to fly, I can't see the league. I feel like they have to make a statement and make a change or say we're sticking with these balls.
I don't know if it's the balls have changed at all. I think it's more the parks where the humidors aren't having the same effect in some places because I think we're seeing some balls fly out in some games and not in others.
Right.
And it's really noticeable because it's usually for an entire series. It's not game to game, which would tell me they've given you a new batch of balls if it changed from game to game. But it's usually the balls acting the same way for the course of a whole series so your whole stop into a town.
Yeah, and I can't imagine it's easy to just swap balls out like that. You got to get them through the clubhouse. They have to be rubbed up by clubbies. And clubbies do that, 2-3 days ahead of time. They're rubbing up balls constantly. So, I guess I would just think that if the ball keeps winding up at the track like this, that's not really the path MLB's been on. They want the home runs. They want action. They may make a change, but I would just think the best thing to do would be actually make a statement. Maybe we took it a little too far with this humidor, raising the seams or whatever changed. And here's the new ball now, and everybody can kind of plan accordingly.
Or we're shutting down the humidors. We're going to see what happens the rest of now till the All-Star break.
Yeah, but it's like the high-powered offenses, like the Braves, are the ones that are getting hurt the most for me because they're banking on that 3-run homer, and it's getting caught at the track now.
Yeah, this is a team that every infielder last year
had 30.
Had over 25, and everybody had over 30 except Dansby had 27 or something, or 29, forget. But they almost had made history there with 4 guys over 30. So 4 infielders. And that's not to mention Duvall, who had 30-some homers. Acuna, obviously. Ozuna, he was back hitting for power, although not lately. The one Olsen hit was scorched, man. That one he hit out to right center. That was a bomb, 3-run homer. That's the first 3-run homer the Mets have given up all year, by the way. No grand slams and no 3-run homers before that one. The Mets are good, man. I didn't change my mind at all watching them. They, even though the Braves split the series and, got a couple of Braves, could have won the series. But the Mets are for real. And, again, we haven't even seen DeGrom pitch yet. And the Braves avoided Scherzer in the series.
Yeah.
So the Mets are really good, and they're not going to collapse. I'm really convinced they're not going to collapse. So the Braves have got some work to do. If
they got the leadership now, I think.
Yeah.
Buck, having guys like Scherzer on the team.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different feel playing them.
The whole culture just feels different. It really does. The way they carry themselves, they're having fun out there. They're serious at the plate. They got a great approach. I just think that this team is different than it's been in the past in a lot of ways. And again, we didn't even see Scherzer. So I did think I thought Buck made a real mistake yesterday, though. Ottavino had not pitched consecutive games. He had not even pitched consecutive days all year, and he used him all 3 days in the series.
Yep.
And he had been a guy that pitched really well this year so far, and he was not the same guy in that third day when they used him yesterday. He didn't get a guy out. He comes in, bases loaded. Terrible situation to bring him in after using him each of the previous 2 days. Brings him in, he walks Darno, who had not walked all year.
Right.
First walk, and then he gives up, 2 runs.
I don't feel any sympathy for guys having to go 3 in a row. We did that all the time.
Oh yeah, it's changed now though, and it's early. And they remember the spring they had.
Yeah, that's true.
We're still in the spring training stage, really, for the pitchers or tail end of it. I just thought that was a mistake that was easy to criticize. That was a risk bringing him in, and the Braves made him pay for it. So they jumped on Ottavino. Continue what had already been a huge inning. They got 3 consecutive singles against McGill, who had a 1-hit shutout going until that 6th inning.
I also think with that move, one of the worst things about it is maybe you pitch 3 in a row, but it's at the tail end of a series and the start of the next one. But giving the team 3 looks at you in a row is, even if you are feeling good, I never liked that as a reliever, like facing the same couple guys 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
They have that look at you that, I can agree with that. Probably wasn't the best move.
I was going to ask a couple guys that after the game, and then I thought, you know what? Even if they did feel that way, they're not going to say that because they're going to face this guy again this year. So I didn't even bother. But I know they felt a lot better facing him that third time.
Yeah,
he had dominated in the first. You know what he did the first 2?
Yeah,
faced 6 batters, struck out 5.
Yeah.
So he was a little different yesterday.
Well, he's one of those guys too that he's a really tough look. Like, did you see the slider he threw to Duvall? That was almost in the other batter's box, and he chased it.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that's not just relying on stuff, but he's like, the funk and the difference of it, like Ian Anderson, where the more guys get to see it and get comfortable with it and they can talk to each other about it, the better you're going to be against it. So, yeah, I agree. That probably wasn't the best play. And I'm glad he did it, though, because got the Braves a win.
While I'm thinking about it, for you people that are watching us on YouTube, make sure to check out our sponsors in the description. Charlie, I just wanted to make sure it was 5 2/3, 6 hits, 5 runs, 4 earned, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, and a hit by pitch. Those first 2 innings were just they were not pretty. He settled in after that, and got a lot closer to the old Charlie. But he started out the first inning with the infield hit that hurt, and he gets a strikeout. Then he hits the third batter, Lindor. Then he gives up an RBI single, another RBI single, gets a strikeout and fly out the end of the inning. Next inning, comes back out, walks the leadoff guy. That's just not Charlie. Walks the leadoff guy. Then they got a little bunt pop up. Then he walks the third guy. Fielder's choice, 4-6. Then he gives up the run scores on the field choice. Then he gives up an RBI single. Just those first 2 killed him because, and like he said, he's so used to being efficient. He throws 34 pitches in the first inning. He threw for this, like maybe the 3rd or 4th time this year, like 50 pitches through the first 2 innings. And when he does that, it just kills him because he can't. Yeah. His thing is to be efficient and go 7 innings, and he's just not been himself at all. He's searching, man, for
he's
what
searching.
is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like he's caught in a place where he has a plan that he wants to stick to, and he knows where he wants to be and how he wants to be throwing the ball and the pitches he wants to make. But then the game starts happening, and it's taken him a minute to adjust. I liked in the Mets game, he adjusted, just started spinning a ton of breaking balls, making him hit his best pitch. But, starters, they want to find that fastball and establish it and kind of – that's part of being efficient. It's hard to be efficient spinning a bunch of breaking balls because they're going to have a lot of swings and misses, throw stuff in the dirt, get deep in counts. That you want to fire fastballs for strikes, but when they're hitting it or you're hitting people, and it gets a little sloppy and out of control, he's having to adjust on the fly each start. But I mean, he kind of started like this last year and eventually found it.
Yeah, it just wasn't as bad. And like he said, the difference in this year and last year he was getting swings and misses. He was getting strikeouts even when the ERA was up over 5.
Yeah.
And this year he's not getting them.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what really kind of alarms him. He's 1-3 with a 6.85 ERA. At past 4 starts, because the first one was good, remember?
Yeah.
Past 4. He has allowed 25 hits, 16 earned runs in only 18 1/3 innings. And here's the weird thing. He's got as many walks, 13, as strikeouts in that. And this is a guy who's a, 200 strikeout guy, close to it, with not that many walks at all. He's 0-4 with a 7.85 ERA in those 4 starts.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing him miss across the plate. He's trying to go a fastball arm side, and he almost hits a left-handed hitter, like jerking it, yanking it. It's definitely he's searching for his mechanics too right now, and I mean, it's a hard enough game when you're not doing that. It's just this is what explains how tough baseball is, though. Charlie's been playing for however many years.
Yeah.
He's had great seasons. You think he has it figured out, and in baseball, you're just always searching, and at any moment you can just lose it and try to find that feel again, and he just doesn't have it right now.
And this is a guy still throwing 94, 95 and still spinning the ball better than like 99.9% of the league. He's still you look at his spin rates, he's still got like the top 30 spin rates in every game he pitches, or 35. He's still spinning at 3,100 RPM, some breaking ball. Not quite as many, but still way over 3,000, most of his breaking balls. So that's the difference in this game, man. You guys talk about it, that it's just a hair off, and you can be night and day.
I always told people that. I remember making, I think it was Chip and Joe Simpson on the plane one time, and they were just asking me how I was feeling and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? My whole career, I've either been a 7 ERA or a 2. So you're going to find out in about a month which guy I am this year, you know. And it's like you can be off by just a hair, whether you're flying open. And this is part of it too, is like guys are hitting the ball and you're making the pitches.
Yeah.
You might be locating, but if you're flying open and showing the ball for extra quarter of a second, that little tiny minute difference can be the difference between a barrel and fouling it back to the backstop. And, you know, you see guys that you'll watch some really good pitchers throw balls right down the middle and they get fouled off.
Yeah.
And then you'll have some reliever come in throwing 102, but because of the way he lines up, the way his mechanics are, if he's showing the ball, it just looks like a beach ball to hitters. And when he makes a mistake, it gets hit every single time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the puzzle you're trying to figure out every time you pitch, is not necessarily, you know, what's wrong with my stuff, because the stuff can all be there, but you have to figure out what's going on with your mechanics, or if you're showing the ball, your direction, are you getting extension? And then you put it all together and all of a sudden you're throwing balls right down the middle and it's a foul ball. And everybody's asking you what you changed. And it's like, no one's going to believe it. Like Kimbrel last year, I texted Rossi and asked him, what did Kimbrel change? And they said, he's just pausing at the top for a little longer. And he goes off with the Cubs.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Chicago and one little tiny thing changes and he's terrible there.
Yeah. So Charlie might feel fine physically and everybody thinks, oh, it's gotta be the leg. It's not the leg. It's not, that's not what's bothering him. And then like maybe the hard hit rate's just a little higher than it was last year. And like you're talking about, he's showing the ball, but maybe they're hitting it a foot to the left of where they did last year because he's not quite as hard. And so he's giving up a lot of singles that are hard hit through the infield too. Maybe they're two guys.
If you get that ball to drop an extra centimeter or hide it a little bit longer, the hitter's a little more off, it's a 2-hopper to shortstop.
Yeah.
You know, that extra little bit of spin and velo they get on it, it sneaks through the hole. And then, you know, things just kind of compound and pile on you. So it's not a fun place to be searching like him right now.
Yeah, I thought the huge tail, what said so much. Again, this is a big strikeout guy in recent years. Yep. One of the better strikeout guys. He did not get a swing and miss in that game until the 30th pitch of the first inning. He threw 34. He didn't not get a swing and miss until he struck out the second out of the inning. 30th pitch, Charlie.
It's insane. And then, you know, you go ahead and throw tipping pitches into the mix.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things that you have to consider when you're trying to figure out why you're throwing the ball like Charlie. And normally, like for me, if your stuff's there and all the metrics and shit's lining up, there's two things that are normally going on. It's either you're showing the ball, right, and you're not getting your extension, or possibly tipping. And for Charlie not to get swing and misses is with the breaking ball he has.
Yeah.
The spin on it. I mean, it's a swing and miss pitch. For him not to get any swing and misses is pretty crazy.
And this was the game one of the doubleheader on Tuesday. Snit asked him, do you want to throw game 1 or 2? Because Kyle Wright was throwing the other game in. And Snit said in a few years, Kyle Wright will be asked that question. He'll get to decide. But, you know, he let Charlie decide. Charlie wanted to pitch the early one. So it wasn't early. It was 3:00, you know. So you could just tell from Charlie's quotes too, man. He said, I think what's going on is they're just not chasing.
Yeah.
There's just no chase. It's above and below the zone. I don't know if that's a result of them being more selective and really selling out for my fastball curveball mix or what. I don't know why that is, but my chase is way down. Then you feel like you're kind of keyholed into the zone, and that creates its own set of problems.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a guy that's been analytical and looking to try everything he can to get out of this. That's Charlie. I mean, he's leaving no stone unturned. It kills it.
It's so frustrating. Yeah, I mean, I tell my buddies that all the time. I'm like, you know, I got to the point in my career, I'm hitting the same button, you know, like I'm pushing fastball away and I'm hitting the glove. And all of a sudden it went from ground ball to shortstop every time. You're getting high fives in the dugout to I'm backing up home plate and they just hit another double.
Yeah.
and I couldn't put my finger on what really changed. And it's always something so small. That's why it's a draining game mentally.
He has for the year 18 strikeouts, 14 walks, 23. It's got a 287 opponent's average, 1.73 whip, which would be the last 5 years. This guy's never had a whip as high as 120.
Which is good. 1-2 is not bad.
Except for the shortened year, 1.395 was the only one he's been. That was only 9 starts, and by the time postseason rolled around, he was rocking again. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's usually really low. But no pitcher before Tuesday, before that game, had given up more soft contact hits below 80 miles an hour this year than Charlie. He'd given up 8, and he gave up 3 more that were below 75 miles an hour in that game. 75-mile-an-hour hits.
Yeah.
So he said, I felt like last year, if that happened, there were still signs that I could be a dominant pitcher because I could still get swings and misses. I would still strike guys out. And now it seems like more of those at-bats have turned into long at-bats that result in walks or hits. And my pitch counts are just driven up. That's what seems to be happening. No matter what happens, results-wise, I'm going to keep trying to do what I can to improve on my pitch. And I feel like most things that you can deal with, I have throughout his career. He's talking about that doesn't make it any more fun or enjoyable. It's really frustrating.
Oh, it's the worst. I don't miss that. I don't miss the failure of baseball one bit.
Yeah. And he said at the end there, this is where the point he is at right now. He said, it started to go a little better when I stopped trying to strike guys out and I just kind of mixed in that game the other day. He said, I threw a bunch of cutters today, more changeups today. And maybe for the time being, I might have to balance my stuff out, my mix a little bit more to get guys off the curveball and the four-seamer. So he's ready to try to do that in the next start probably.
Yeah, and it could have been, it could be some good scouting on the Mets' part where, I remember when I was playing for the A's, they had this thing in their clubhouse, and they always did pretty good off Felix, but they had this thing in their clubhouse where they said, if you get to 3-2, do not swing. Because he was going to throw that split, and it was going to look like a fastball right down the middle, and it was going to go in the dirt. And it was the times that they had success off him, the guys were able to not swing at that pitch. And then, it's the cat and mouse. Felix picks up on that, and he throws a fastball right down the middle, and you take it. But the Mets could have been watching his previous starts and said, he's not throwing strikes right now. And be as patient as you can, because Charlie's really, really good with that breaking ball, starting it as a strike and just running it off the plate. Sometimes teams just have a really good approach with you, and that's another thing. You start second guessing yourself and changing stuff.
With a starter like that, especially a prominent starter like that, when a couple of teams have success against a guy, other teams they know exactly what those teams were doing. It's not like in the old days where that might slip through the cracks for a while. Now everybody knows exactly what happened.
Oh, there's so much video.
Yeah, there's video of every pitch he threw the previous starts, all the starts. They can dial up anything they want to see. Look at the heat zones, everything. It's all calculated for you and disseminated by all the people, the analytics people within a team.
Yeah.
So they don't miss anything now. You didn't used to have a team of analytics guys on a team.
Well, and two hitting coaches
that comb through everything.
Yeah.
So you might be able to get away with some mistakes or some trends, some tendencies you're doing, but you can't get away with any bad tendencies now, man, or anything a team can exploit. Everybody's going to be able to do it.
You can't get away with tipping, even if it's the slightest thing. Like, that'll be around the league in a hurry. Everybody knows, they have paperwork, all kinds of stuff posted in the dugout that this is the most likely pitch you're going to throw 2-2 to a righty, lefty. Everybody knows exactly what to look for. So that's probably why he did better, even if the pitches aren't good, change up cutter. Yeah. Even if they're not good pitches for him that day, just not sticking to his normal plan, then he starts getting outs,
Yeah, because when he's throwing that curveball as much as he usually does, I mean, it's unhittable, really, when he throws a good curveball. And other teams, and teams will probably realize that and say, he gets in his count, we're just don't swing it because it's going to be a curveball.
The first thing, you have to eliminate tipping first when guys are taking pitches they shouldn't. You have to eliminate that first, and then you have to go to. And it's so hard to see on video. I wish teams had a video from behind home plate for a pitcher to study and see when the ball's visible and things like that, because hiding the ball is so important. But those are the first two things I would check if I'm him, because I want to know why guys aren't swinging at that breaking ball and why they're not swinging and missing. How how they're able to lay off these tough pitches that start as a strike and are in the zone for a while and then break out of it. For Charlie, those are the questions I want answered first.
Is he tipping that breaking ball?
Well, and if you are, it's a game changer. Because if there's any doubt, the hitters can't do it. But if it's an obvious tip and they know for sure that breaking ball's coming, when it starts in the middle of the zone, just let it drop. But when they have to protect against a fastball and it starts in the middle of the zone, they just start swinging and get caught in between.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how this evolves.
Yeah.
I just have a feeling he's going to get on a roll. It might take another start or two, but he's going to figure something out. He's going to find something. But the other extreme on the team, on the pitching staff, Kenley Jansen.
Yeah,
man, when he came out in that first appearance in the first weekend of the season and gave up those little blue pits, and he got some boos. Not many, but it's Atlanta. They don't do that. But there were some boos because it was frustrating to watch. But there were 3 singles and 3 runs in his debut April 8th. And I think only one of them was hit even semi-hard. The others were just nothing.
Yeah.
So people are going, oh, yeah, here's another time when the Braves signed a guy too late or whatever. Well, you see what this guy's done since then? I mean, utterly dominant. He has made 9 appearances since then, 9 scoreless appearances, 12 strikeouts, 1 walk, and he had 8 straight hitless appearances before giving up a single against the Mets.
Yeah, and Kenley's got, he's got things that don't slump. His extension, and his cutter, it's the combination of his high front side. He's hides the ball really well.
Does that weird twit?
Yeah, he's right on top of the hitter. He gets. I bet you. I don't know the stats, but I bet you he's up there in the leaderboards and extension. Just watching him,
he's like 6'6".
Yeah, he gets way out there, and then he's throwing a cutter on top of it. And it's not like the hitters don't know what's coming. It's just. Everybody talked about Mariano having that late cut on his ball.
Yeah.
Well, Kenley's throwing from almost a foot in front of Mariano. So his is definitely going to cut late too, right? I think for him, he's just a perfect combination of a guy that isn't going to have to answer a lot of those questions I just brought up for Charlie. Because who cares if Kenley tips? You already know what's coming.
Yeah. And, he's kind of reinvented himself a little bit late in his career because people were finally hitting the cutter a little bit more, so he doesn't throw at every pitch like Mariano does, And it's got those plenty hard too. And like you said, he's got that extension. But that whole funky thing he does, I don't know how he repeats that, but he's done it so many times now. When's the last time he didn't do that? When did he evolve into that?
I don't know.
I don't know where you would pick up that motion,
Guys do some weird stuff that like Kimbrel's thing. He's sticking with it. I mean, for me, I watch Kimbrel come set every time, and it just seems like a hassle to go through.
I know. He does it. He still does it. And I look at it and go, "You're still doing that?" But he ain't gonna change now, man. He
had some reason for it that it helped him. Trying to make sense out of some of the stuff he does is hard, but he had a reason for it, why he did it, and it does something for him as far as comfort, and he's stuck with it. But whatever Jansen's doing that makes him feel the way he's feeling, you just got to stick with it.
I'm just looking at his. It's interesting when we get off the air. Go to Baseball Savant and look up his stats because they got a lot of stuff you're talking about.
Kenley,
yeah, but he's throwing the sinker. He's throwing the sinker 21% of the time, and the slider 12% of the time. So the cutter's 66 now, which used to be much higher than that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the season by season.
If you think about it, though, it's hitters are just like that. They have to guess where the ball is going to be because it's moving late.
Yeah.
And when he mixes anything else in but that cutter that's already so hard to hit, you see the terrible swings. Mixing in a slower breaking ball, how awkward they are. And that's the thing. He throws that breaking ball right down the middle sometimes, but their timing's so jacked up trying to cover that cutter. You just see this goofy swing and a pop-up out of it.
His peak cutter percentage, 2012. You want to guess how many often he threw the cutter percentage?
93.
91.4%.
Yeah.
And then he was as high as 85 in 2017. So that wasn't long ago at all, man. Dipped to the lowest he was last year down to 58. So he's back at 66 this year. threw the slider more last year. The sinker, I'm sorry, and the slider 15 last year. So he seems to have found a nice mix there in the middle. But yeah, he's not like Mariano rode that cutter all the way to the Hall of Fame. Nobody ever hit it. So till the end. But 7 of 7 save opportunities since then. I know a lot when he got him. I was one of those like, really, Kenley Jansen? You really need to do that? But you know what? Watching him and watching Will, and no offense to Will, because he got the job done when it mattered last year down the stretch.
Yeah.
But it's night and day.
Yeah.
Kenley doesn't put that first guy on, doesn't walk that guy, doesn't give up a bloop, doesn't give up, home runs, the home runs that made every game close. It seemed like he's just he's still a dominant closer, man. That was a good $16 million 1-year investment, I think, especially after Luke got hurt.
Yeah, and Will grinds his way through a save and does it with balls. Right. Kenley's just dominating right now and overpowering guys, which is there's nothing like that confidence you get as a team of and the other team.
Yeah.
I remember talking to DeRosa when we had me, Craig, and Johnny doing really well, and he said,
"Yeah,
we're trying to score early because we know we got to deal with you guys. So having Kenley at the end of the game, the other team just has to look at it right now as an 8-inning game." Which is really, with all the other guys, Matzik, Will Smith, Minter throwing well.
It's dude, how about McHugh?
Yeah.
I mean, he had that one bad outing a while back, and then he's pitched great since then. He had the biggest out of that game when he came in and got the strikeout in the first win. Bases loaded, comes in, bails out Matzik. Big strikeout. McHugh's impressive, man, because I told you, when you see that guy, you're like, this is a dominant reliever? Because, he looks like insurance salesman next door. He just can spin it, man. He can pitch.
You can't teach spin. You can, but there's some guys that just have this gift and ability to manipulate the ball, and McHugh's one of them, where even though he's throwing 89, he can put so much spin on his off speed that he's just got a lot of weapons. I think, having been a starter in the past is definitely helpful.
Yeah.
Starters get to the point where they're pitching with the bases loaded in these tough situations just as much as relievers. But he has 3 pitches he can go to that he can spin and move in different directions in those big pressure situations that, it's been fun to watch him.
You're physically, you're Roger Clemens compared to McHugh. He's not a big dude.
You should see me. I've gained like 40 pounds since I retired.
And a great guy too, by the way.
Yeah. I think I did his podcast a few years ago. It seemed really cool.
What a normal guy. Just down to earth, grounded dude. We got to get him on the podcast for sure. Really,
he owes me one.
He's a really interesting guy. I'll tell him that. I'll tell him I'll do it with you, and I'm sure he'll do it.
Tell him he owes me one.
Maybe we'll get him on next week. I'd be interested to have him talk about the pen, talk about the team a little bit. He's really thoughtful. His responses are never cliches at all. Nothing that comes out of his mouth is a cliche.
That's really be so nice as a reporter.
Yes, he's really interesting. I talked to before the game yesterday. It was a early game, so but the guys got there pretty early after getting in traffic in New York. You've been through that a few times. They were a little late getting there, but had a chance to talk to some guys before. And I know some fans are frustrated or are worried because this isn't the old Mets team. Well, they'll be glad to know the Braves are not looking at this as, hey, we did this last year, we'll do it again. The Braves know this is a different situation than last year, and that you can't just count on doing another comeback like you did last year. They know that. They are fully aware of that, and they're not taking a laissez-faire or casual approach to this thing. They know it's time to they need to start winning. AJ put it real well. I talked to him before AJ Mentor before the game, and he said that, I guess I'm trying to just think back to last year. It's just kind of like we're not syncing up. When the pitching does bad, the hitting does good. And when the batting goes bad, the pitching does good. Remember last year, that was the same thing. They would
same thing.
Yeah. We're just not clicking. We'll figure it out. I know we keep saying that, but at the same time, we've got to get this thing going because we can't get too far behind. It's hard to catch up when a team like the Mets is hot. The Marlins are doing good. He said it's a tough division. So we can't get too far behind. Just got to keep chugging and keep plugging. Hopefully one of these days they'll all get synced up and we'll get on a roll. And that's exactly what they did in that game a few hours later.
Yeah. Yeah, you haven't seen those big those big innings from the offense kind of covered up a lot of the pitching struggles, at times. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen
sure.
I mean, just like the 7 or 8 spot in the second inning or the fourth inning that takes all the pressure off the staff, lets you rest some guys.
Yeah.
It's been definitely a grind for this team so far.
He said, you can't bank on making a comeback like we did last year. We need to get things rolling here pretty soon. And I said, but is there a sense in the clubhouse that everybody still feels good about your team, about your chances of doing that? He said, yeah, I feel like we're in each ball game and there's a turning point that could have flipped either way. We're just a few hits away from winning each game. But at the same time, like I said, we have to dig down deeper pretty soon.
Yeah.
Kevin Seitzer, I stopped him, the hitting coach. And before I could even ask a question, he goes, are we having fun? No, we're not. Before I even asked the question. But then he got talking about, I asked him about, the guys in the bottom of the order, all the strikeouts. And I said, Duvall, we're not seeing from him what we saw last year in particular. Is he doing anything differently? And he said, I know this is before the game yesterday. Duvall ends up having a big hit, the 2-run knock. But Seitz said, no. I mean, everybody's trying really, really, really hard to get it going. And I mean, when you press and when you fight and you grind and you don't get results and you try harder and harder and they're working your butt off, he just kind of left that thought out there. He said, it's when you come to a place where you go, screw it. I'm just going to go out and try to put together a good at bat. Focus on, hunting according to your plan, have an approach and try not to do too much and just get base hits. We've been talking about it, but it's ongoing daily conversations. He said, when an offense struggles, it's like everyone tries harder to contribute, to make something happen. And, I mean, we've gone through this lots of time in the past, and it's like magnified when everybody's scuffling. And then, not winning ball games on top of that. He said, when you get good pitching, we're not scoring enough runs for them. So everything's magnified right now.
Momentum's so huge.
Yeah. He's talking about that approach. Austin talks about that a lot, and that's what's really turned him around. He's the one guy that stayed consistent this year pretty much. He's raking again. Is he talks about hunting balls in a zone, hunting strikes, and he doesn't go out and doesn't expand his zone when he gets behind or he's struggling or the team's down 3. Where in the past they get ahead of him in the count, he get desperate and expand his zone and flail at those sliders off the plate. He's not doing that now. He's looking for a pitch in his zone. If he doesn't get it, he's not swinging, and he's drawing walks.
He's been good all year.
Yeah.
he's really just an impressive, mental case for watching him work through how the league's tried to approach him and how he's adjusted so fast and keeps doing it faster. Is cool to watch.
Yeah. From the middle of last April, he has not really had a long stretch at all where he's looked bad. And he's just a different guy. And for him to pick up where he left off last year, I think anybody that thought, maybe last year was an outlier or maybe teams will get a book on him and figure some things out in the offseason on what he's doing. No, he's still raking at the same level. This is what he is.
Yeah, what's awesome for him is he has so much power.
Yeah.
You can make the ball as dead as you want. If he gets it, it's getting out. So he doesn't have to try to swing hard or do too much right now.
Yeah. And I said to Sykes, it's the same thing as early last year when you couldn't kind of get synced up and if you hit one day, you didn't pitch. If you scored 7 runs, you got beat 9-7. Or if you pitched well, you scored 2 runs, it got beat 3-2. And he said, he goes, it's lasted too long, but the way the rest of the division's playing and the changes that have been made on the other teams, we don't have time to mess around. We've got to figure it out quick. Like I said, it's not from lack of effort, lack of work. Everybody's working hard, working overtime to try to get this thing going. And I said, can they try too hard sometimes like that? And he said, yeah, because it's more the effort level. And I don't want to call it anxiety in the box, but it's really not. It's really wanting to. And then he left it open again. They're pressing to try to get results.
Yeah, pressure will do that to you. And it's like the longer it goes on, the harder you press. And you feel like there's a lot of at-bats where one guy is trying to make that huge difference for the whole team instead of just taking his single and keeping the line moving. Yeah. When you see guys come up and have a terrible at bat with the bases loaded and 1 out or something where sac fly gets a run in and they punch out on 4 pitches, you can tell there's guys feeling that pressure and everybody wants to get the big hit and take the pressure off somebody else. But, at some point somebody steps up and gets those big knocks. Yeah. And then you have that 7 spot like you had yesterday.
Yeah. And I will say none of them are resting on last year's laurels. They know.
No.
I said, Sykes, I said, you guys are the defending world champions. I mean, you're not surprising anybody this year. Everybody's aiming for you. And I said, and the Mets spent a lot of money, and they're actually living up to expectations so far. And he said, yeah, last year is last year. This year, we've just got to focus on taking care of business. That's what everybody's trying to do. So hopefully we'll get hot and get it going, get some guys swinging it. So we'll see. And I asked him about Austin being the one guy's been steady. He said, yeah, he's picked up right where he left off last year. He said he's matured so much and come so far. It's just really been awesome to see. He said his plate discipline has been incredible. Timing's great. Approach is great. He said we need to get some other boys rolling like that.
Be nice to get Ozuna rolling. He's really searching right now.
Yeah. He looked good the first week, and spring training, but not since then.
I was listening to the broadcast yesterday. He's trying to keep his front shoulder in more because he's been pulling off of balls. And you could see him actively trying to make the adjustment in the game because he got blown up inside, multiple times in that series where they came in. And those are balls that when you're not trying to make an adjustment or worried about or flying open's okay. But he had a few fastballs in that he hit probably 60 miles an hour off the bat and got out pretty easy. But if he can find it and get his bat back, in the 4-hole, 5-hole,
he's big. He's important.
He has to be hitting for Austin to get anything.
He's one guy that I think the move from outfield to DH permanent full time will actually be beneficial because I don't think it can help him at all playing in the outfield because he's just not good out there and he's not going to make any plays out there that help him, take some positivity to the plate. If he can just sit in the dugout, focus on video, whatever you need to do, but to go hit in the cage, whatever he needs to do to get ready, I think that can only help him once he's DH permanently.
Yeah, some guys don't like it because you just kind of sitting around most of the game. It's hard to keep your body locked in. I'm sure it'll be an adjustment for him, but he's hit the way he's swinging right now. Any change is good. Yeah.
So the Mets had won every one of their series before yesterday. They were like approaching franchise records. They had done it, I think, 11 times one time in the past, but then 2 times, maybe 8. But they had won 7 straight series before yesterday. So they were going for, they had a lot riding on it. They're fully cognizant of the chance to do that. The Braves that was a convincing win that people were leaving after that, midway through that inning. You heard some boos, which you will hear at Citi Field even when your team's got the best record in the National League.
Well, that's what you want to get going, though. It's the best case scenario for the Mets is to start off hot and have some padding and have that just momentum and the crowd on their side and the crowd believing in them because it's a really interesting place to play. When that team's good, that city jumps on their back and goes crazy. But it doesn't take much more than a rough weekend to start getting booed. Even as a player, you have 2 bad games in a row, you're probably getting booed walking off the field. And, a lot of guys can't handle that. So I'd like to see how the team handles that first really rough stretch they go to, maybe a rough week. And the only thing that, I've said before, but it scares me that Buck's managing them because I think he can kind of guide them through that better than a lot of managers.
They're 18-9. You would know the Mets' luck that they would. This would come when the Yankees have the best record in the American League. And the Yankees, when the Mets are 18-9, they would hope the Yankees would be having one of their disappointing years. People would be railing on the Yanks, but that ain't the case. That's baseball city right now.
Yeah,
sure ain't basketball city right now. After what the Mets did. Ian Anderson pitched. I thought. He's still walking too many guys, but I thought he really battled again. Really, that was impressive to get. This guy had 5 hits, 4 walks in 5 1/3 innings, but only gave up 1 run. That's doing some pitching there, man. Against a team like that.
He always battles.
Yeah, he does. And he always has. He always has. Since he just got to the majors, he has. He said, we pitched the ball well. We broke out in the 6th inning, and our bullpen shut it down. He said, that's a good team win right there. As a team, we're looking for something to jumpstart us, and I think that could do it right there.
Yeah, you're always looking. I thought the series last year that did it was a series in St. Louis, and obviously it happened way later in the season, but a couple big comeback wins. That's when, for me, when I see this team starting to make those comeback wins or win games late, that's when I really think they start rolling.
Duvall had been 2 for 20 in the first 6 games of this trip. He had a big day yesterday, had that big 2-run knock. They the big one, the big get the monkey off their back part of that inning was they had been 1 for 16 with runners in scoring position over a 23-inning stretch from the start of the doubleheader Tuesday through the first 5 innings of the game Wednesday. 1 for 16, dude. They went 4 for 6 with runners in scoring position in that 6th inning.
Yeah, it's another one of those things that's going to level out.
Yeah. That's exactly what Duvall said. He said, last year I started slow. I have a history of it in my career starting slow. And he goes, and that runners and scoring position, he goes, that will even out. We're going to hit. We got good hitters we're going to hit in those situations. Because last year, remember, they had the highest OPS in the majors in those situations. Third or third highest OBP. So, and Freddie wasn't responsible for all of that. They had a lot of guys hitting well in those situations.
I don't know. It's for me, it's always comforting when you feel like the team's not playing well and their record is bad versus when they're just getting beat. Like if you rolled into New York and everybody hit and you felt like you pitched well and you just still weren't good enough to beat them.
Yeah.
That's when it's scary. But when you roll in and you're kind of hobbling into that series, just nothing's bouncing your way. And the Mets got a ton of breaks with just so many cheap hits, I thought. And you still split. Yeah. Like that tells you you're right there with them, even if they have a better record.
Guillermo Heredia said of that inning in that game, he said, it gives us confidence. It lets us know that we can score 7 or more runs in any inning. I think it was really important for us. Definitely very exciting. It just helps improve the morale, lift the spirits, pump up the energy. Obviously, we didn't get off to the kind of start we wanted to like last that we would like this season, but innings like that definitely help. I was doing an interpreter, but how about the game he had?
Oh, that catch.
Demeritte came in and was sore/tired from the day before. And to his credit, Demeritte spent a lot of time in the minors, last few years. He played 18 innings in doubleheader yesterday in the outfield. So, but I tell you what, the team did him no favors by announcing that he was tired or fatigued from the day before. Come up with some bum injury, he's got a sore wrist, a sore ankle, something, I mean, I'm glad they were truthful. But I just know in the age of social media, that does not do a guy any,
Well, try walking around the clubhouse being the tired guy.
Exactly. Just say, I got a sore wrist. Then you got an off day Thursday. Friday, you're back in there. Nobody thinks anything of it, right?
My hammy's a little tight. I don't want to tweak it. We're just being careful. But tired is one thing that is just I can't imagine, the guys I played with, if a young guy came in too tired to play.
Yeah.
The abuse he would take, and it's not mean, but it's going to be a running joke for a while.
Freddie would have said it to him too last year.
Oh, it would have. Rossi, if you would have come in the clubhouse and been too tired to play around Rossi, I hope he can handle some ribbing.
How about Hinsky?
Yeah, I hope he can handle some jokes.
So anyway, Guillermo Heredia is thrust into the lineup. Demeritte was scratched at the last minute. Heredia starts, makes a spectacular catch you're going to see for a long time. I don't think I've ever seen a guy do that. Catch the ball with one hand with his glove, like right at the top of the right field wall, and hang on the wall with the other arm. And he said, didn't even think about it. He said, I've never done it before. It just happened the way his body went. He kind of hung there. And Ian said, I don't think hardly anybody realized he'd caught it. He goes, and I knew right away that he'd caught it.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of that Gary Matthews catch in center field, where he kind of was like twisted around and reaching. It's kind of an awkward thing, but the athleticism just takes over.
Yeah. And then and McNeil, man, the look when McNeil saw that he caught it, McNeil was like that, he couldn't believe it, man. So then and then Heredia has the walk in the big inning, and then he has the 2-run knock at the end just to add, after leave it if there were any doubt.
Let all the air out.
Yeah, if the Mets thought there was any chance of any kind of comeback, he hits a 2-run homer late. So it's quite a day for Heredia stepping in there.
Yeah, he's been great for the team. Just his energy,
huge.
He's one of those guys that you're going to laugh and smile every time you walk by him in a hallway, that are just great to have throughout a season.
You could take it any way you want, but we were asking Snit about Heredia afterwards. And I said, let's see, Snit, you got to hear Snit's quotes. I said, what about
he's not tired.
Yeah. What about the catch that Heredia made? And he goes, unbelievable catch. We might be watching that for the rest of the year. It's awesome. And asked about Demerit being scratched for fatigue. And Snit said, we just don't want to push anybody. I mean, and Heredia is like supercharged every day. I'd love to be in that body. I said, yeah, he's not fatigued. And Snit goes, no, he's never fatigued. He's never tired.
Yeah, those are the jokes though that I'm saying are just gonna. Yeah. You got to come up with something better.
Anything, man.
Anything.
Hangnail's better than tired.
Blister's better.
Yeah.
Anything but tired. The tired's the one thing that's not going to fly in a clubhouse that everybody has to push through 162 game seasons. Everybody's tired.
I mean, sore hamstring has been an excuse for fatigue a lot of times, or hungover.
Yeah.
That's sore hamstring, sore wrists, anything instead of saying I'm tired or I'm hungover.
Yep. Yeah, I bet he's gonna wish he had a better reason.
Yeah, and
learn. That's how you learn.
And he built up so much goodwill because he's played great. Demerit's played great, made the most of his opportunity in these 2 weeks he's been up, or 1.5 weeks, whatever it's been. It's not been long, but he's played really well. So that was just unfortunate. I hate to see a guy who's more than paid his dues in the minor leagues and bouncing around. This guy's paid dues out the ass, and then to make that faux pas. But it might have been a case where, and I'm just speculating. This is nobody told me this, and I'm not going to say that. I'm not accusing the team of anything, but I could see if there was some not resentment, but if the rolled eyes over, I'm just tired, man. I'm just fatigued, overall. I could see them going, okay, well, we'll announce that then.
Yeah. I mean,
we're not going to make up an excuse for it.
Yeah.
That certainly would teach you a lesson.
Yeah. I mean, he'll learn, it's just one of those things that it'll be forgotten in 2 weeks anyway. Not in the clubhouse, but there'll be more stories and more things going on. But if he keeps playing his ass off, the next time he needs a day, he's going to have a better reason.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he never misses a game again
for being tired.
For fatigue. Never, ever. I bet it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it worked out great for the Braves. I mean, Heredia played better than he would have if he was tired or whatever he was,
Yeah.
So he wouldn't have made that catch.
No, I don't know what. Yeah, he's just got to come up with something better next time.
Yeah. All right. Well, we battled through this. We were both tired. We did it.
Yeah.
And that's it. We'll be back after. Got another big series, man. Got the Brewers. First place Brewers. Doesn't get any easier. But that was a good one for the Braves to have an off day on to be able to salvage that split, put that nasty Texas series behind them.
Get some sleep in Milwaukee.
Yeah, and you came back 6 games behind the Mets. You would have been 8 games behind the Mets, man.
Yeah,
and that would have matched the season high last year of what you were out of first place. So that was big.
Five is the number I like to be in, where you feel like you're in striking distance. Could turn around in a week, but. Yeah, 8 is that's you don't want to leave it up to them to have to fail. You want to be close enough that you can play well and still catch them. It's a frustrating feeling as a team to feel like you can't get this team off your ass. But it's also super deflating if you get hot and you go 8-2 and you don't pick up a game.
And if they play well, you're still not going to catch them.
Yeah. You don't want to be in that position. You want it to be up to you.
Year. Yeah. It's like the Braves last year. Once they took control of the division,
nobody's catching them.
It was like Phillies played really well, but they couldn't catch them.
Yep.
Once they got hot a little bit down the stretch. Yep. All right, that's it. We'll be back here. Thanks everybody. We appreciate it. 7:55 is real. We are out.